There are three terms in yoga that often lead to a lot of confusion. These are Kriya yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and Kundalini yoga. So the terms are Kriya, Ashtanga, and Kundalini. Now, all three of those have become systems of yoga from the 20th century onward. So Kriya yoga was popularized and named Kriya Yoga by Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. Ashtanga Yoga became popularized and systematized by Pattabhi Jois, and Kundalini Yoga became popularized and systematized by Yogi Bhajan. All of these happened from the 20th century onwards. They are new systems of yoga. They're new systems for practice. So Kriya Yoga, of course, from Yogananda, Ashtanga Yoga from Pattabhi Jois, and Kundalini Yoga from Yogi Bhajan. Okay, but people often are very confused about this, and they think that they are old systems of practice. It is right to be confused and to think that, because the terms Kriya, Ashtanga, and Kundalini are very old terms. Kriya and Ashtanga actually both are found in the Yoga Sutra. So this is from several centuries after the turn of the Common Era, so quite a number of years ago. The Yoga Sutra talks about Kriya Yoga as a threefold system of practice. Kriya Yoga is tapas, svadhyaya, and Ishvara pranidhana. So basically austerities, study, and devotion to Ishvara. This is very clearly a threefold system, and this threefold system called Kriya Yoga in the Yoga Sutras is not the same as Yogananda's Kriya Yoga. Okay, so when Yogananda adopts the term or the phrase Kriya Yoga, he is talking about his own system. He is not talking about what Kriya Yoga is in the Yoga Sutra. So while Kriya Yoga is an old idea, it is not the same as what Yogananda is calling Kriya Yoga. The same thing happens with Pattabhi Jois and Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga in the Yoga Sutra is an 8-limbed system. Probably many of you know this: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8-fold system. Ashtanga, 8-fold system or 8-limbed system. This is absolutely not the same as Pattabhi Jois's system of practice, which he calls Ashtanga Yoga, which is an asana-based practice. There's a breathing associated with it, but it is a physical practice that he systematized in the 20th century. So again, the term is old, the system is not old. The system comes from Pattabhi Jois in the 20th century, even though the idea or the term Ashtanga Yoga is an old idea from the Yoga Sutra. And Kundalini Yoga is the third example. Kundalini Yoga is popularized by Yogi Bhajan later in the 20th century. These are specific types of practice, specific combinations of asanas, specific sequences, specific breathing practices, all of which were developed or systematized or at least presented by Yogi Bhajan. But the term Kundalini does date back quite a long time. It is actually thought that this idea of Kundalini starts from a sort of pagan sect which worshipped the goddess Kubjika, this serpent goddess. And then Kundalini comes from that and gets adopted as a concept into practices of Hatha Yoga. Kundalini in Hatha Yoga historically is this idea that there is latent energy at the base of the spine, which must be awakened, must be turned on, must be directed upward. So this is an idea, this is a sort of metaphysical idea that's called Kundalini. This is about serpent-like energy. This is not, in Hatha Yoga, a system of practice. It's a term or an idea or a subtle body concept. When Yogi Bhajan systematizes his method of yoga, he calls it Kundalini, and certainly it draws on some ideas of Kundalini, or maybe many ideas of Kundalini, but he refers to an actual method for practice, an actual system for practice. So these three ideas, being Kriya, Ashtanga, and Kundalini, they are ideas that have a historic base to them, but as they turn into systems of practice, they become very specific and they become a method for practice as developed by Yogananda, Pattabhi Jois, and Yogi Bhajan. So it's important to make this distinction. It might not seem like a big distinction, but it's important to make it because what we have in the 20th century is so much innovation. So many people were systematizing methods of yogic practice, like Yogananda, Pattabhi Jois, and Yogi Bhajan, but also Vishnu Ghosh, also Iyengar, also Swami Vishnu Devananda, also Bikram Chowdhury. These are all products of this very innovative time in systems of yoga. And even though they draw terminology or draw ideas or influence from what came before, this was very much a time of innovation, and these methods were very much new in the 20th century, even if they draw names or terms from historic ideas of yoga.